Hello everyone, my name is Colby Brown. I'm a wildlife, landscape, and travel photographer that has been working in this industry for 18 years, and I'm here to give you the top 5 tips for macro wildlife photography today. So tip number 1, as obvious as it sounds, is to use a macro lens when possible. Now, a macro lens essentially allows you or gives you the ability to shoot at a 1-to-1 ratio to give a realistic size for very small species such as insects, frogs, snakes, and amphibians. Now, if you do find yourself working with a more venomous or poisonous species, I do recommend using something like a 7200 or 100-400, which can give you a pretty interesting look in a situation that you might have liked to use a macro lens otherwise. So tip number 2 is to use off-camera flash as much as possible. So off-camera flash is essentially just like it sounds. You'd essentially use a flash commander on your camera to control your off-camera flashes, whether it's 1 or 2 different flashes, and then either you yourself or a friend or someone that you've hired will actually need to use and articulate the flash into different areas. But regardless, using off-camera flash gives you much more flexibility and freedom to control the amount of light that you need when it comes to macro photography when you work in dense jungles like we are here in Ecuador. So tip number 3 is to use a naturalist guide or a herpologist when possible. So herpology is the study of frogs and amphibians, and regardless if you find yourself in a new location that isn't your own backyard or maybe your own local park, it can be great to hire a local guide that has a lot more local knowledge to not only help learn more about the different species you're trying to photograph, but also do it safely and securely for both yourself and the animal in question. So tip number 4 follows along in the same vein as hiring a local naturalist to keep things safe and secure for everyone, and that's just the fact that you need to respect the animals that you're trying to photograph. If you are in a situation where you actually have to hurt or kill an animal that you're trying to photograph, that is not a good thing to do. So what I want you to do is to try to take into account the safety and security of both yourself when you're working with poisonous or venomous species, but at the same time make sure that you're always leaving any species you found in the same place that you found it before, and you're not harming them in any way possible. So tip number 5 is don't forget your bug spray. Now this again might sound a little bit obvious, but when it comes to working in environments like we are here in the Ecuadorian jungles, you definitely need bug spray because anywhere there are bugs, you're going to find the amphibians and the insects and the reptiles that you might want to photograph. This can be the same thing for, again, your local backyard or the local city park that you might find yourself wanting to venture out and have a little macro adventure with. But regardless, make sure you carry your bug spray because the last thing you want is to get bitten by a couple hundred mosquitoes on your last outing. Well, there you have it, our top 5 tips for macro wildlife photography. For me personally, I love macro wildlife photography because it gives me the ability to photograph subjects or species that are often either overlooked or generally get a bad rap. Regardless, I hope you have fun, I hope you learn something, and I hope you get out there and have your own little macro wildlife adventure, just like I'm about to as well.